have just watched a brief report on the opportunities climate change presents to us in this part of the world. Indeed, climate change is a catalyst for innovation, new industries and economic growth. And the future will belong to those who move quickly to build cleaner, smarter and more resilient systems. The good news here is that Nigeria is moving quickly in this direction, where government leaders, development partners, investors, and climate experts gathered at the Nigeria Climate Investment Summit held at the London Climate Action Week recently to explore how Nigeria can unlock climate finance and accelerate sustainable development. But beyond the high-level discussions and investment commitments, what does the summit truly mean for Nigeria? How will these engagements translate into real opportunities for economic growth, job creation, clean energy, and climate resilience for millions of Nigerians? To help us answer these important questions is a distinguished lawmaker and one of Nigeria's foremost climate policy champions. He is the sponsor of the landmark climate change bill in Nigeria's 9th National Assembly, which became the Climate Change Act, a historic piece of legislation that now provides the legal framework for climate governance and action in the country. It is my pleasure to welcome Honorable Sam Onuigbo to Eco Frontline. Honorable Onuigbo, thank you for joining us and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much indeed for having me.
Now, the Nigeria Climate Investment Summit was held during the London Climate Action Week. What were the major objectives of the summit and why is it a significant milestone for Nigeria's climate and development agenda?
Thank you very much indeed. You know that the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, organizes annual conference of the parties meeting or conference annually. And that is where, everyone from different countries that participate or engage or interested in climate actions, where they gather. This year's one we hold in Turkey. Now, apart from that, the next diverse, very engaging, foremost climate conference is the London Climate Action Week. For instance, last year they had 700 events, but this year they had over 1,000 plus. So it was indeed a good platform for Nigeria to showcase some of the things that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been marketing, whether in Dubai during COP28 or during his consecutive visits to Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week Summit, where he made very important and remarkable speeches. So the London Climate Action Week, where we held the inaugural Nigeria Climate Investment Summit, was such a beautiful platform to be able to showcase some of these things, some of the policies, laws that Nigeria has put forward, in the climate space to enable investors to come in and invest. So it was indeed a major milestone because our children, our sons and daughters who are in the climate space at the UN level and at some other levels were present, including the Nigerian High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, Ambassador Aminu Dalhatu, and so many other persons, the Deputy Speaker, the Governor of Lagos State, the Governor of Enugu State represented. So it was indeed a major milestone. Why? Because we are now joining Mr. President from the private sector to showcase these opportunities, the massive investment opportunities that are bound. For instance, in my speech, which I used to introduce what it was all about and then to provide a background to it, I talked about the population of Nigeria. It's about 240 million people. And talked about the fact that this is mostly very young people. And also talked about the fact that Nigeria serves as a gateway to the African Continental Free Trade Area after, which of course has a population of about 1.3 billion people today and massive GDP of about 3.4 trillion US dollars. So when you put this together, you now discover that it was indeed a major milestone for us. And all the policies that we are putting together, the law and all that, Nigerian climate, investment policies, either you're talking about the Climate Change Act, or you're talking about the Energy Transition Plan, or you're talking about the Electricity Act 2023, even with the amendments, that has liberalized that aspect and created massive opportunities for investors to come in. But when these opportunities exist, or when this light or touch, when they are hidden under the table, without people knowing, there's no way investors who are out there looking for where to invest and get heavy or high return on investment, there's no way for them to know. So the London inaugural Nigerian Climate Investment Summit has helped to project the nation in positive light and let investors know what this administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been able to do in terms of creating the enabling environment for people to come and invest. You can actually attract or transact in Nigeria by investing in areas like agriculture, renewable energy, and of course we've talked about electricity, or in fact the extractive industry. At least you saw that Mr. President was able to come up with a major policy on having an evergreen city, or what you call green zone industrialization areas in other countries. So we have the hope that what we were able to do in London, bringing this to the fore, make people know. You should know that London is more or less London Climate Action Week is more or less a place where, after blowing all the grammar or speaking at the COP conferences, people now come to dot the I's and cross the T's in terms of signing, agreement. For instance, one committee member in the House, whom I introduced to a group of people at Abu Dhabi, where we go normally for the International Renewable Energy Agency. It was only there in London that they were able to sign the MOU. So it was indeed a wonderful opportunity for Nigeria.
Right, Honorable, for the average Nigerian, climate investment may sound like a distant concept. In practical terms, how will the outcomes of this summit translate into jobs, improved livelihood, cleaner energy, and greater climate resilience for communities?
Well, thank you very much. That's precisely why why we held the summit. It is to open up, what we have in Nigeria in terms of investment opportunities that are abound actually with a very young population. That's why we did that. And then it's not Greek, it's not sounding from above. We are now bringing it to a point where people are investing. Maybe I'll cite one or two examples. You know that there's what we call investment in renewable energy, and that cuts across solar, wind, and the rest of them. A lot of finance has come into that, and it has created employment for people, whether you are doing the solar panels or you are talking about mini grid in small areas, like the example that I cited a while ago about people who are interested in establishing mini grids in island areas. These things have the potential to bring in resources and then create employment for a lot of young people. Maybe I should also cite the instance of what happened in Nasarawa just not long ago, when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was ably represented by the Vice President in commissioning 6,000 per day lithium plants in Edo, Nasarawa State. And what does that do? If you combine the resources or whatever is coming from there, in terms of the fact that this is a 250 million naira lithium processing plant, and that's producing 6,000 metric tons per day, then I understand from the governor that there's also another one there that is producing about 4,000. If you put it together, that's about 10,000 metric tons per day. What does that do? It creates opportunity for employment, direct and indirect. And of course, this is the sort of thing that we're looking for. We're not waiting for you to come and get, mineral or raw resources that are in the country. We take them away as raw products. We're looking for, investors who would like to come and invest in the extractive industry and then go into processing. And then you, at the end of the day, see that value is added, either by employment or creating opportunities for people, to those who are investing. This is exactly what we're talking about. So it's not a rooftop comment. It is something that you are seeing and you experiencing. Except if you fail to go, except you go out there and make these things very open. Sometimes some people are not even interested, in reading what is going on, within Africa. But today, it's beginning to change because you need to go out there and engage. And of course, I'm happy to tell you that a lot of people came and it was a huge success.
Now, one of the key announcements was the proposed Lagos Climate Action Week. What impact do you expect this initiative to have on climate innovation, private sector participation, and Nigeria's leadership in climate action across Africa?
Well, thank you very much indeed. I think that was one of the high points of the London Climate Action Week, because just like I explained earlier, apart from the UNFCCC sponsored Conference of the Parties that holds annually, the London Climate Action Week is the other highest gathering of people who are involved in that. And somehow this is taking the shape of major cities getting involved. Whether you are talking about the one that is holding now in Sydney, or the one that is, held in Baku, which is Azerbaijan, or the one that is holding in New York, and so many other cities. So Lagos, a city of about 23 or so million people, is a mega city with its own challenges in terms of environmental and all that. It's a perfect place to hold, an action week, climate action week in Africa. If you want to do in comparison in terms of population, Lagos is still on top. And if you think about the challenges that Lagos has, we are talking about flooding and the rest of them. So to bring ideas on how to be able to tackle all these things, and then to take advantage of the young population that I just talked about, Lagos fits perfectly well. And since we have been able as a nation to sponsor or to have a climate change act, one of the first, in Africa after Kenya and the rest of them, you discover that it's a fantastic opportunity for people to come and feature. When this happens, Lagos will be the first in Africa, the first megacity in Africa to be able to hold this thing that is now happening in London, in Sydney, in Baku, in New York, and in Rio de Janeiro. So we believe that it's going to be a wonderful opportunity. And of course, it's going to bring massive investments. I just talked about what went on in London within 1 week. You have over 1,000 events where people explain in detail what it's involved for you to be able to invest in their area or come to their country and all that. we want to be able to do that, bring that to Lagos. And I'm happy that Globe Legislators, of which I'm the president, worldwide, and then sustainability, that we are going to work with the organizers of London Climate Action Week to be able to do this. And of course, we have to give credit to the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, for being able to say that Lagos is ready to be able to host that. So the details will be worked out, and I'm sure that will happen. And then again, put Nigeria right there on the map. We want to do everything possible to be able to support Mr. President in what he's doing. And of course, in my speech there, I told them, look, when we unbundled our telecommunications subsector, so many major telecommunications companies around the world, they were invited to participate. But some of them were not, dutiful enough to be able to notice that massive investment opportunities existed in Nigeria. So the companies that took advantage of that, and of course they were mainly African countries, you of course must have noticed that they used Nigeria as a springboard to be able to take over other markets in different other zones. So I appeal to investors not to allow such a mistake to be repeated. So I believe that they have heard us and that they are going to come in and help us invest in a very massive way. So that's my message.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Sir Sam Onuigbo, for your insights on EcoFrontline.
Thank you very much indeed. Thanks for having me.
Now, as we have heard today, climate action is no longer just about protecting the environment. It is about creating jobs, strengthening our economy, improving food and energy security, and building a more resilient future for every Nigerian. Thank you for watching EcoFrontline. Remember, the fight against climate change is a shared responsibility. Together, through informed decisions, strategic investments, and collective action, we can build a greener, more prosperous, and climate-resilient Nigeria. I am Nolin Ebel Ame. See you next time. Goodbye and stay environmentally conscious.